Welcome, viewers. My name is Patrick Kariuki, Managing Director at GenAfrica Asset Managers, and today I'm interviewing our founder and my predecessor, Charles Ogalo. Charles, having retired, although you're still on the board, what do you miss most of the 8 to 5?
Thank you very much, Patrick. Perhaps maybe a reflection on the past. As I mentioned before, GenAfrica, or the journey, was and is very nostalgic in many, many ways to me. We had some great moments, happy moments. We had really tough times. And the critical thing for me in terms of legacy is the team. We built a very strong team. We built a very strong culture, a culture that was very family oriented. And having worked for GenAfrica for 26 years, perhaps that's what I really miss most, is working with a very friendly team, with a family oriented team. That's probably what I miss most in my retirement.
Okay, good. And how are you spending your retirement?
Retirement is a time perhaps for relaxation, but also a time for reflection in many ways. One is that your mind must continue to be busy, and it's not the end of life. So I spent a lot of my time in a very relaxed manner, but I still sit on a few boards that keep me fairly busy, but also intellectually, I'm quite keeps me engaged. I still, of course, I'm quite privileged to still sit on your board, and also I chair the Batian Fund, as well as, of course, chairing the Ugandan business. I sit also on 2 other corporate boards. And those really keep me busy. Plus, I, as a matter of hobby, I do farming, which is mainly for losing money, not making money. Yes.
And a little golf from time to time.
And of course, a passion as a hobby is golf.
It's golf.
Yes.
Yeah, so Charles, when we look at the Uganda operation, how did we end up even going to Uganda? I don't think it was ever on our radar.
At some point, Patrick, if you may recall, probably towards the end of I think 2019, something like that, we had reached a point where we wanted to do 2 things. One was to increase our reach in terms of market, but we also wanted to broaden the product base, because at that point we were quite limited. If you recall, we started off purely with the pension funds, and after pension funds we then decided to look at other funds. We then went into looking at endowment funds, and we got a few that we managed. So we were limited in terms of the product range, but also we wanted to have expand our market in terms of going into the region. Eventually, and ultimately, we were looking at being a Pan-African fund management company. That perhaps is the genesis of looking at Uganda.
Yeah.
It became very strong when we finally parted company with Genesis, if you recall.
Okay.
When we wanted, and we had made a decision at the local management level to expand into the region, and more specifically, Ugandan market was very enabling and a very friendly environment for business. It is at that point that we introduced the idea of moving into Uganda that you call Genesis decided that they, because of regulatory issues, they were not willing to join us into Uganda. And that's more or less precipitated the idea of exiting the Kenyan market.
Yeah, I recall the Ugandan entry was from an advert in the East African, which I remember we debated, and then you decided, no, let's just apply. We didn't have an office, we didn't have a license, and we applied, and then they called you for a presentation. And then you got the mandate, but still you didn't have an office and had no license. Can you recall how we were able to navigate those times?
We made a couple of visits. Personally, I made a couple of visits to Uganda. I think probably the most prominent one was with Pahima, when we visited the Bank of Uganda. But clearly, what was happening in the Ugandan market was there was clear absence of fund management. But the Ugandan market, the beauty of it also is that the pensions industry was funded. Much smaller market, much smaller overall funds under management in the market. And the CMA really wanted to develop the market. At that point, they didn't have OBRA, which is the equivalent of RBA here. So the CMA were keen on bringing in good fund management. So when we went in, we got a lot of support from the CMA. I remember the CEO was extremely welcoming. So the environment was very enabling. Getting the license was not very difficult. I think the most difficult part of it became when now setting up the office, finding the right kind of human resource. But getting the license from the CMA was fairly easy. Then, of course, the next challenge was how to get clients.
Yes. Okay. Just adding to a slightly different area, you're involved in our national pension policy, which got cabinet approval last year, and we've been seeing a lot of good things coming out of it, especially on the taxation end. Now pensions are fully tax-free. How do you feel about that?
Patrick, you can only be with a lot of pride. I think without that effort, we probably would not have the PSSS would still not be in place. But there was a lot of engagement, a lot of thought that went through it. Because lacking was, yes, we had the Retirement Benefits Act, but the Retirement Benefit Act was rather limited as an act of parliament, as law. But we required a bit more of policy to look at the direction of particularly funding pensions in this country, and more particularly the civil service, the civil servants, which of course form a bigger part of the number of employees in this country. So it created direction, it created policy, and I think it was a good document to have. Yeah, and as you're saying, it has also enabled a lot of and opened a lot of doors on the pension side.
Yeah. What career advice would you give a young person joining GenAfrica straight from school or university?
If you recall, and I think it's again a tradition that we formed, and on reflection, probably the bulk of your staff are people that came in as interns.
Correct.
And proved themselves.
Correct.
And we then retained and eventually hired them as and when we had openings. And I think that's a very good culture that I think you're still retaining.
Yeah.
We then brought in people that picked our culture, picked our working styles, and also we then picked the very best, whom we had tested ourselves from within. My advice to them, one is, and we've seen it, one is for a young man or a young lady coming in, make up your mind where you want to be in terms of career. But two things that are very important in my view is discipline. I would say probably just not two. What is lacking amongst the younger generation is discipline, but also perseverance. If I may bring it as a second part, there must be a willingness to persevere. Sure. Things don't come easy. And we're now doing 30 years of our anniversary, and you have been with the company now for 30 years. The younger generation perhaps will not do even 5 years in the company, but you've done 30 years. So perseverance is very important, and the discipline to work.
Vitamin D, discipline. Vitamin P, perseverance. And play the long game.
Yes.
So are there any closing remarks you'd like to give, any guidance?
Not really. Looking at probably the company, one is to wish the company greater life, longer life. We've over the years done the right things. The company's grown and grown fairly well. I think robustly in the last probably the last 3 years. We've seen robust growth on the company, and the trajectory is good. So two things. One is I think we need to continue the growth, and two is again maintain the culture. And one is the culture of integrity, which has always been very strong in our part of our vision. So let's see, and not just see, but let's keep that culture of strong integrity, and the growth. And I think GenAfrica is a company of the future.
Okay, Charles, we wish you all the best and continue being available to guide us and support us, and we value your appreciation at the board level. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Padre.